Yeah.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. But
Right.
if you're doing it electively, you would have the opportunity maybe to lose a little weight or,
Right.
as you just mentioned, right. And then a question regarding anesthesia. Are there alternative options to general anesthesia for the elderly that may decrease the side effects that regular anesthesia, I can't even say the word, it's Monday morning, folks, so bear with me, regular anesthesia may have on someone with, let's say, memory loss or dementia?
Sure. Sure. Yeah, there's always spinal anesthesia. There's epidural anesthesia. There are nerve blocks where, much like a dentist gives you a xylocaine in your mouth, you can also do that to some of the main nerves in the lower leg or the upper arm to deaden those, and along with that, giving you sedation. So, yeah, there are many new techniques available. We call that regional anesthesia. Now, not everybody is a candidate for everything. But if someone has a high risk with problems breathing with their lungs, then they certainly can have epidurals and spinal anesthesia. Yes, there are alternatives.
So there are alternatives.
Yes.
There are options, and depending on the person and
Yes.
their situation. Right. Well, that's good to know. And then the last question from Julie is, why do we hear on TV so frequently that there have been recalls on prosthetic implants that cause infections?
Well, it's not that the recalls weren't because the implants caused infections. What it was, the recent ones, is implants usually are, for hip, for instance, are a steel ball with a plastic socket inside a steel shell. And that's worked very well. But in a young person, that can wear out with time. So they tried to develop steel on steel, metal on metal, which will last longer. The only problem is they found over years that there were microscopic breakdown of the metal that formed in the area, and it caused a reaction and caused some loosening. So this is something that was just found out years and years later, because you don't know how it's going to work.
Right.
Basically, there's no way of testing that beforehand. And that's the reason that they were recalled. They could still be done, but there is that particular risk. So it's not that they gave infections. They just found that there was microscopic wear on them.
Interesting.
And for other implants that are called back, sometimes it's just a flaw in the mechanical design, but most of them, by and large, are excellent devices with excellent companies. And
Right.
considering the millions done, the results have been excellent. It's changed the lives of many people.
Right.
But there's always, again, we're not perfect, and there are always going to be flaws.
Right, right. But there are millions done, I should
Right,
say.
and
Right.
change the lives of many people.
And improve the quality of life,
Yes,
right, for
right.
many, many people, sure. Why are we more likely to suffer bone fractures as we age? I mean, is it just part of getting old? It just happens, right?
Right. Well, the bone structure becomes weaker. It becomes, it's not as strong as it was. Inside, you see a bone, but inside of it, it's made up of like spider webs of bone, which is like an inner structure. And with age, with osteoporosis, for instance, they get thinner, so the bones aren't as strong. And the other thing is, as we get older, we're not as agile. The balance isn't as good, the strength isn't as good, so we fall more easily and don't know how to fall. You know, when you're a kid, you can fall off a roof and land on your feet and tumble over, but as your reflexes decrease, you can't protect yourself as much. Just a simple walking and falling on the side will cause a hip fracture in a nursing home patient, whereas because again, the bones are thinner and they don't know how to fall.
Right, wow. We're getting ready to wrap up, but if you have any questions for Dr. Robert Leopold from Schenectady Orthopedics, he's an orthopedic surgeon. We're talking about osteoporosis. If you have a question or a comment, please, now is the time to get in touch with us right here, chat@cbs6albany.com or through the CBS6 Facebook page. And I've just got a couple of other quick questions here for you. We were talking about the recalls or the hip or some of the you know what I'm trying to say.
Right, the implants.
Again, I said it before. It's Monday. Give me a break.
Yeah.
The implants, right. But why are some hip fractures treated with screws, plates or rods and others with hip replacement?
Well, that determines exactly where the hip is fractured. Not every hip fracture is the same. For instance, if the fracture is right below the ball of the hip joint, that's when people get a hip replacement or a new ball, because you can't save that. If the fracture is farther down and the ball is okay, then you could put a screws with a plate on it to hold it, and you have your own hip, which is better. Or if it's farther down, you put a rod in it to hold it together and save the hip. So, and if it's just a or small crack, one can sometimes put screws in the hip to stabilize it. So that's why, depending on the fracture and how far apart, you use different appliances.
Different approaches. Wow, well, that's good to know. I appreciate that. And a couple other questions here that I've got before we wrap up. I know that a cane can be very helpful for many people, but a lot of folks say that they're just too proud to use it. You know, I can't tell you how many older folks I've talked to said, you know, oh, my doctor wants me to use a cane, but you know, I don't want to be seen using a cane. Any thoughts on that? Or
yes.
People that might...
Well, we come across this all the time, and I always say to patients, well, when you go to the grocery store and wheel the cart, do you feel better? And universally they say, oh, I feel much better. Well, they're essentially using a walker or crutches or cane, because some of the weight is transmitted onto that cart. A walker or a cane will do the same thing. And I tell people, well, a cane, you know, nobody, you know, we're all self-conscious about things like that, but nobody really cares if you have a cane. And it makes life so much easier for you. So I try to encourage them, use it as much as you can, because it really does take a weight off, and you can get by and be more comfortable. It's really worth it.
I couldn't agree more. And, and people forget, too.
Right.
You know, if I were to ask you the last 20 people that you saw in the last couple of days, who was walking with a cane and who wasn't, you're not going to remember.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
You don't remember anyway. So I think that's good advice. And my last question is, you know, I would, let's say, well, not necessarily me personally, but anybody, I would like to exercise, but my legs won't let me. I guess, is there anything I can do to exercise, but even though it's difficult on my legs?
That's another common problem. We have people who are very much overweight, but now they have arthritis in their knees and say, well, I can't lose weight because I can't exercise, my knees hurt. Well, there are alternatives. For instance, pool therapy. There's water aerobics, where the buoyancy of the water helps your legs. For instance, we have the Sunnyview here has a pool where they have classes for older people. In fact, you don't even have to climb into the pool. The floor drops down. So you're never too old to do something. And even if you're just marching in place, it's better than doing nothing.
Better than doing nothing.
It's better than doing nothing. But there are programs for people who have arthritic conditions in their legs.
Check out the water, because that is very good on your joints, right? So check out the water. Well, Dr. Leopold, I can't thank you enough again for taking time out of your busy schedule to come down and answer questions. And thank you everyone for your questions. I know they were very helpful to me. I'm sure that you found them helpful. We will not be here next week. Next Monday is Memorial Day. I hope everyone has a safe, wonderful Memorial Day. But I will see you 2 weeks from today, right here, same time, same place. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.